Hello and welcome. My name's Marianne Roberts from Express Media Group, and today we're looking at quilting. It's always a good idea to think about what you'd like to quilt on your quilt as you're piecing or appliquing the work. There are different types of quilting that you can work. For example, there are all-over designs such as cross-hatching or meandering or stipple patterns, or features such as hearts or flowers. When you're quilting a quilt, the thing to remember is that you must always cover the area evenly and make sure that an area unquilted is no larger than a clenched fist. There are lots of sources for inspiration for quilting designs, including copies of Australian Patchwork and Quilting, or simple household items such as plates and cups and cotton reels and the like. The tools best to use to mark a quilt include a sharp HB pencil or a mechanical pencil, a chalk pencil, or a silver pencil for marking darker fabrics. Once you've thought about what design you'd like to work, if it's a light background fabric, it's a good idea to mark the top before you actually baste it. So here we have a light box and a stencil design and the quilt top over the light box. So before you mark your quilt, it's always a good idea to press the quilt top and cut away any loose threads and cut away any excess seam allowances. Before I mark a quilt, I will always check with every seam that the dark value fabric is trimmed away a little bit more than the light value fabric. And the reason for that is that no matter what side the seam is pressed to, the darker fabric will not show through to the front of the quilt after it's been quilted. And never press your quilt top after it's been marked in case it makes the marks permanent. So, we've got the light box here and we place our quilting design on top of that, and then the quilt top over the top of that unbasted. It's a good idea when you're marking over a light box to check how heavy you're pressing with your pencil, because it could be that you're pressing too heavily. The light box tends to make the mark a little lighter than it actually is. So a good idea is just to turn it off, see how dark it is, and then if it's a little bit too dark, just lighten your touch as you mark the quilt. The other thing you can do when you're marking a quilt is not mark all of the lines all the way through. As you quilt, your eye gets used to the quilting pattern, and so all you really need to do is just mark the quilting design with dots or dashes, and your eye will follow the line as you quilt. You can mark your quilting design underneath like that with a light box, or if you want, you can use one of the many stencils that are available today, and you would mark your quilt in the same manner. For example, we'll move this one around, place the stencil on the marked line, and then mark around the corner and across the edge of the quilt through the stencil. So a light even touch is all that's needed to mark the quilt. The same applies when you're marking straight lines on a quilt, and here's a finished example where I've taken a ruler and marked 1/2 inch parallel lines on the quilt top before the quilt top is basted, and here they've been marked with 1/4 inch lines. If you've got any ideas for marking your quilts, please let us know. Visit Craft Lovers Megastore.